Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to Growth Mind State. It's Anthony Thompson here.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? It's Robert Catrona.
And Teresa Concepcion.
How's everybody doing this week? How you guys doing?
Doing okay. We blinked and
Doing all
it
right.
was almost over.
Yes, I would say that that's the biggest compliment of the week is that it's just been nice or it's been just rainy and dreary. So feels like this month hasn't happened.
Yeah, it's gotten kind of cold too, a little, right? A little colder than usual. Hopefully, it'll start getting more like summer sooner than later. So, what we got to talk about today?
Well, we have a lot of sensitive topics to talk about here. We have a 13-year-old who was shot, unfortunately, as well as the Dante Wright case in Brooklyn Center in Minnesota. And then we're going to finish it off with a little talk about reparations. So we'll have a very compelling show, but it's a depressing week. I mean, if anybody's following what's going on, unfortunately, it seems that the cases of police and even civilian-related excessive force seems to be on the rise at this point. And it seems to be a very large wing of people who seem to have the privilege to do so to a lot of black and brown bodies. And that's where we are today. So I believe Teresa is taking the first swing today. So what's our first topic?
We're going to talk about Adam Toledo. That was a shooting that happened over in Chicago.
1 second, I'll set up
13-year-olds, apparently they had responded to the scene. The police had responded to the scene because they had a shot spotter go off in the area. So they had been holding back the footage on this kid, on him getting shot, and it seems like it might have been for an actually reasons pretty unfortunate to what happened. You know, it seems like the cop got out of the car, chased Toledo down an alley, asked him to stop, and when he was asked to stop, he was told to turn around, put his hands up. The second he turned around, the police officer opened fire on him, shot him one time in the chest, and the kid crumpled to the ground. I mean, you know, I don't want to speculate on the police officer or what he was thinking or anything like that. I mean, we can't obviously show the footage because it breaks your heart. It honestly does. It breaks your heart. Like this kid was terrified. They did find a gun on the scene. It did look like he probably dropped the gun behind the fence that he was shot next to. I mean, it looks like a terrifying experience. I cannot even begin to imagine what that poor child's last moments were like. But the footage was released. You know, the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, she asked for peace, even when everyone was protesting to please, you know, protest peacefully. But it's hard to not get so angry about this. It just seems like it's one incident after the other when it comes to police violence. And I'm not sure if we have an answer for some kind of remedy to this. I don't know if you know, police reform will be enough. I don't know if gun control will be enough. I mean, there's something going on in this country when it comes to race relations, and it just feels like it's getting to a boiling point.
What's disturbing to me is that they say that there's footage of him throwing the weapon, but it doesn't seem that he's holding the weapon in the footage that I've seen. But they found a handgun in the area, but it shouldn't matter. I think we're at the point where we're seeing that the police training is to shoot within seconds, no matter what the case is, and with that kind of
it wasn't even
training,
a second. It wasn't even a second before he told them to turn around and put your hands up. From him actually turning around, he shoots him the minute he sees his face, not even what's in his hands. It's sad. It's heartbreaking. The mayor even said, she's like, you know, we failed him. We failed Adam in this case, you know. And it seems like a lot of these kids are getting failed in this way, and a lot of people are getting failed by the police. And it's like, who do you call if you can't call the police to help you, you know?
It was an older kid that handed him the gun, right? Like
he was with I believe it was a family member or a friend of the family's, a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
And they said that he had opened fire on a passing vehicle, and that's what set the shot spotter off. And that's what called the police to the area to investigate the shot spotter. And they saw Toledo running down the alley, and he chased after him, and he told him to, you know, drop it or stop it. They were really not sure on the language used in the video, but he does tell him to put his hands up and turn around. And the minute, like the millisecond that he does, he shoots him in the chest. And I would like to think, at least in the reaction of the cop in the video, I would like to think that when he saw him, he realized it was a child.
They administered CPR.
He immediately asked for, you know, ambulance and for a med kit, and they immediately started to work on Toledo. I want to believe that he knew he fucked up. Like, I want to believe that. But at the same time, their training is not indicative of that, because you shot him so quickly, and I get it. This is not an easy job. It is not an easy job by far. I do not envy the job of the police. I know it's a hard job, and it's hard for people to put their lives on the line, especially when someone could potentially have a gun and shoot you. But this mentality of I'm going to go first, I'm going to shoot you first before you get a chance to shoot me. I don't know if that's the best training that these police should get. Like, it's, you know, and they always aim for center mass. They don't try to disarm. They don't try to, like, any kind of, like, maybe winging them in the leg or in the arm. It's always center mass to do the most damage and take that person out. Yeah. And this kid's whole life is gone now, you know?
Oh, man. So somebody's kid. I just feel bad about that. You know, I'm not really happy about the stuff about the 21-year-old handing him off the thing, because that kid's probably going to have a guilty conscience as well for what he did by giving him the gun. But yeah, that's bad, man. Like, these kids don't get to live their life. And I understand, like Teresa said, I understand the whole thing. When there's a gun involved, you got to be extra careful. Kids panic. It's that fight or flight type of thing that, and so the cops are like, I don't know what they're gonna do. But then at the same time, the kid, when he got shot, he had his back to him, right? Is that what was?
Yeah, he was, but he had put his hands up and he turned
Yeah,
around.
yeah. So I mean, like, unless there was like a real threatening pose, I don't see the sense. Cops. I don't know. The training needs to be adjusted. If you're in a job that's that high stressful, with that amount of stress, you need to have proper training not to panic.
But it's sad is
It's
that
not just
they. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
it's not just training. The officer that shot him, Mr. Stillman, was a 34-year-old military veteran who joined the
Mm,
force in 2015, and this is part of the pipeline of the military to police. And
yeah,
um, I have to say it's very important to just regulate that. A lot of these people are kind of hotheads.
yeah,
They have a very specific kind of look at a viewpoint of the world. Not everyone, of course. There are always going to be the ones who have better angels going on, but there seems to be a contingent of people who are ex-military and ex armed forces. So it's just something to pay attention to. This is Chicago. I mean, I was going to say that we're giving Lori Lightfoot a big pass on a lot of stuff,
Yeah, this is not
and
the first
she's
incident they've
not
had.
popular.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
not the first incident that they've had over in Chicago, and it's a growing number of incidents now. But I was gonna say it's sad that you know we are expected as citizens, to listen to the police even when they have a gun in front of our faces, and we're not allowed to panic, and we're not allowed to react in any way that might be considered erratic or concerning behavior when people are in fear for their own lives as well. Like, should we be afraid of the police? Like, it's gotten to that point where there's been steadily increasing stories. I feel like, especially these past 2 weeks, it felt like almost every day there was a story about the cops shooting someone. And they all happen to be minorities. It just seems like what is going on. Are they feeling the pressure? But are they the only ones we're allowing to feel that pressure, to feel like they can react in a way that's going to kill somebody because they feel threatened? What about the people that they're threatening, and what about the people they're putting guns in their faces? They're not allowed to react in a way that would feel like fight or flight. If somebody is running away from the police, does that mean that they should shoot them in the back? Because that's happened too. Like, they're running away from you because they're terrified that you're going to shoot them. And we don't hear an outcry from these good cops. Everybody's always like, oh, these are just like a few bad apples, or these are just mistakes that are happening. Okay, so where's the outcry from the police that don't have these incidents occur to them? Like, where is their outcry? Where are they talking about, what's happening and their concern for what's happening, and some kind of remedy to this issue too? We don't hear from those good cops. It's this blue wall of silence, right? You can't say anything negative or positive. You got to go with what happens, and that's it. And it doesn't matter if they are getting charged or not. I mean, we also have what you call it, the other incident that we were going to talk about. God, there's so many. They run
I was
together
going to
to
say
me.
this goes back. This goes back to the military officer, the military medic, who also it just shows me the police's uh, apparent need to use force first and all occasions, including with the verbal accuse as well, because they also threatened him immediately that, like, when you should be afraid of getting out of the car. And
yeah,
it's like it's a natural reaction amongst a lot of people of color at this point. I mean, and this is a long time happening, but right now, I mean, of course, we're afraid of getting out of the car or showing any type of resistance at all, and it doesn't seem to matter because the if I don't have the military officer's name, but it was a medic, and he was sprayed out for in broad daylight You know, they don't really care about what it looks like to them. They're more afraid that this person, of course, has the inclination to find violence against them without realizing that you're supposed to be serving all people. You're supposed to be serving all of the people that are your constituents, even when you're doing a traffic stop of some sort.
He was
Even
pulled
if that person,
over, but he was pulled over for the tag. They said, oh, he didn't have a tag in the back of his car. But when they actually had stopped him, they did see a tag. They saw a temporary tag in the window after they'd already stopped him. They could have just said, oh, sorry, we didn't see your tag, and let him go. But they didn't do that, because the minute that they tried to talk to him and start getting his information, because God forbid that they should say, we were wrong, we're cops, we can never be wrong. And he started push back on them, like, well, why did you pull me over? Because they no longer had a valid reason to pulling him over at that point. And they were mad that he was even questioning them. And they started to, show their force of, you have to listen to me, I'm a police officer. And he was exercising his rights by saying, well, what did I do? Why are you pulling me over? These are questions that the cops are supposed to be able to answer without getting upset and yanking you out of the car or pepper spraying you, and then even after I think their chief of police was saying that, yeah, they were wrong, they shouldn't have done that, they shouldn't have used that much, they did use excessive force, they still didn't apologize. He still said it wasn't necessary for those police officers to apologize for what they did. Why was that not a necessary thing to apologize for?
Could I have a question? I just want to ask both of you your opinion. So when is enough, because they said, with this situation with the army person that you were speaking about, that because he was driving to a well-lit area, that he was kind of evasive or whatever it is. When does that line get crossed where cops can become assholes or whatever it is and feel like they're justified for what they're doing versus, you understand what I mean? Because I understand in some situations, certain things can legitimately be, hey, he was being evasive and whatever else. I'm not saying that was that in this situation. The guy looked like he was obviously afraid. He had his hands out the window and did certain things that, to me, kind of as an external, being outside of the box, it looked like he was afraid. I would have thought a cop could assess it easier than I would, that the person was obviously afraid. So where does that line draw? I mean, where do they draw the line where it's okay for a cop to be aggressive because something may or may not be out of place versus, okay, because I don't want to say all cops jump the gun. I feel like a lot of them do. But I feel like I don't know where where do you feel? Do you think some of certain things, if somebody announces on the radio he looks like he's being evasive or whatever, gives them the right to be excessive with these people or to be cautious maybe in some cases? Do you understand what I mean? Do you understand what my question is?
I understand, but I feel like this is the thing where we underestimate how much the fight or flight, that the fight element that is reinforced for the police is really problematic, because in this instance, yes, it's subjective. These are things that they're paid very well in a lot of cases, in a lot of places, not everywhere, but in a lot of places they're paid very well to make sure that they have the best attitude in this situation. But we don't look at it that way because we know that we've had so many issues with systemic violence with the police for generations upon generations that we're used to it. And we've gotten used to this idea that the police are supposed to be not just a force of control, which they are, but the fact is that we're allowing ourselves to believe that the police cannot change in any form, in any way. And the idea is that it's a sad idea, but at this point, how are we being proven wrong? And that's why the Derek Chauvin trial that we're having right now, that incurs the murder of George Floyd, is so relevant. And unfortunately, I don't know if we'll get a positive result with that. So that kind of tells me that, where's that line? That line is way too subjective to allow ourselves to go to violence first. And we have these cops going to violence clearly as I think this is an old time thing that they're so used to a culture of being the authoritarian force in there. That's why people go all cops are bastards. You have to understand why people say it, right? And you don't have to say it personally. You don't have to agree with the exact sentiment of it, but that's exactly why. It's because most of the time they're in my cases, there's very few times where there haven't been maybe trigger happy isn't the word, but very quick to
refraining from
be
what they could
angry at
do.
you.
Yeah, like they don't. But
Yeah,
they
letting you
could go.
frame you.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of actually going out and attacking, some actually resist from attacking, but it's very few. It's like a
Well, they
lot of
just
them.
had that
Yeah.
that case for Carol Horn. She was a former officer. She was fired for stopping a fellow officer from administering one of these chokeholds that they were told not to do anymore. And she was fired. She had stopped them from using the chokehold, and they took it out on her, and they fired her. They wouldn't give her pension or any of that. And she just won her case against the police, that police precinct for it because, and that was in 2006. In 2006, like you can't be. So the police are telling the other police you can't be a good apple. You all have to be bad apples, and you all have to follow the line, and you all can't rat each other out, because if you do, we're going to take everything away from you. That's like the same thing with the police officer that was killing the other police officers, because they were directly in relation to the reason that he had gotten fired, because he had spoken out about the stuff that was going on in the precinct that he was upset about and that he got fired for. It's like they're not trying to show any good apples. It's just a barrel of rotten bullshit at this point.
So my thing though is like I wanted. All right. I have a real grudge towards police. I have like a lot of issues in regards to the way they handle situations. I've come across a couple good people, I guess. I just don't want to not give them like the right to protect themselves either. Like in certain situations, obviously not these. I don't want to like compare this to like, but it's kind of like, like I said, it's that thin line that I feel like it's like, they should have some sort of like power in a sense of being able to stop situations from getting worse. But then, like you say, they instead of hitting with a little bit of a like a tapping hammer or whatever, they hit it with a sledgehammer or something. You know what I mean? They don't just stop it, they destroy it. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's like I wish there was a way we can kind of like, and you would have thought that cameras being everywhere, that it would stop some of this extra stuff, but it seems like even the cameras don't even stop them from going overboard. Like
No,
it's like
they
they don't
care.
even
They
care.
don't care that you're recording. They don't care that they're recording. They don't care. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. I mean, we have 19 other countries that police officers aren't typically armed. They only are able to get guns under exceptional circumstances. Do they allow guns? Because they don't want police officers' first reaction to be grabbing for their gun in every single situation. And it feels like every single situation is calling for them to grab for their guns. They had another incident of a young man who was the police called the cops. The cops were called on because they said somebody was running around with a gun. That someone was running around with a gun, and they found him, looked like he was in mental duress, and he did have a knife, and he had an airsoft pistol, which they were unable to identify, and he was swinging it around, and instead of trying to de-escalate the situation, they shot him too. He needed help. He needed help. And I get it. These are situations where they are dangerous, but at the same time, aren't we trying to help these people, or is it just shoot them and ask the questions after? Is that how we're training police officers? Shoot them and ask the questions afterwards. Find out what it was afterwards.
Well,
Find out it was a 13-year-old that
culture.
dropped a gun. Find out it was a 13-year-old that
That's the
dropped the gun in
culture.
the alley. It's just, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. And it's not, we're not taking it. It's not going to happen anymore. We don't want it. It's like, even with Chauvin's trial and everything like that, you know, it used to mean something that they would get tried, but now it doesn't mean anything because they all walk. They all walk. I remember the first time one of them actually got tried.
So this is this. I was going to say I disagree with you. I actually think that it's more relevant now that they're actually getting tried because we actually have videotape, which is the major thing that we were doing a lot of, that we might actually get a couple pieces of justice in all of this. I think that's we're getting to the point now. I don't think the trials in the past with the police mattered. I think that they got away with everything in back in the days from the 70s. I mean,
they got away with everything. They never got tried, but now they're getting tried with camera footage. Eric Garner, everybody, they're getting tried and they're walking. They're fucking walking.
I think that tells us more about our system.
If Chauvin walks, I mean, that will be the biggest fucking spitting in the face of people. Because that man, you had a whole trial dedicated to why his knee and being on his neck wasn't the reason that he died. And you're going to say that that man didn't kill him? Like, if he walks, there's going to be fire in the streets. I don't understand how that's not going to happen because people are already pissed. And it's one more body on top of the pile of bodies that's growing every single day.
That's the thing, though. It's like when you have cameras, you know, everywhere, and you think about how many different cities, states, people in general, or whatever are out there, you're gonna see a lot more and more of these things mounting up, and you know, you're gonna think things are getting fixed at some points. You're gonna think things are gonna get worse at some points, but because cameras are everywhere, it's just like YouTube. When you upload YouTube, I think there's for every minute there's like 500 hours or whatever it is. It's like some ridiculous amount of footage being shown. It's the same thing. It's like it's gotten to the point where it's gotten so excessive that it's either super sensitized you or desensitized you because you've seen it happen so much. Like some people are numb by it at this point, and some people are extremely agitated because of this stuff. It's I don't know, man. It's gonna be a long time till things get better, unless people start learning how to respect each other, which I don't see that happening anytime soon. I know a lot of people that respect each other, but I mean, like I said, if you have 1% of the world that's living their life like assholes or whatever it is, all it's gonna do is it's just gonna keep happening over and over again, and you're gonna still see footage and everything else of it. Things may be getting better in some cases, but it's like you're never really gonna see it on TV. You know, and it's just going to get louder because it's easier for everybody to amplify everything because everybody's got a camera. Everybody's got a voice now. And I don't know. I don't know. Has it gotten worse or has it gotten really better? Do you think it's gotten better or do you think it's gotten worse in society?
I think now you can just see clearly what's been happening and it's just not changing. It's not affecting people the way that we were hoping it would affect. It's not affecting the police officers the way we were hoping it would affect them when they first were told about the body cameras that they were going to be having to put on every single day. It's not affecting them because they're seeing that there is no consequence for these outcomes. Even when it comes to like Dante Wright and everything like that, you know, that child, he called his mother to tell her that he was scared about getting killed by the police officers. Yeah. Like, I can't imagine. That woman's going to have to live with that for the rest of her life, listening to the last moments of her son. Scared, terrified, before being shot by the police. And I know people make mistakes. I get it. People make mistakes. Especially, you know, and police officers are people, you know, they are prone to mistakes just like everybody else. But, you know, everyone else faces consequences for mistakes. Everyone else is held accountable.
Any leeway? I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think we should even be giving them any leeway in that direction because that is the charge that they've been given. is to find a way to de-escalate and to protect. At least that is what the motto is. I'm not going to say that, like, I will say I'm more cynical about this. So I think that this is a culture that is a long-standing thing that has to do with American exceptionalism, in my opinion. And I think that this is going to take. I think we're in a large spectrum of ideas. I think that to a large culture of people, we are learning more about what is actually happening. So they are actually, I'm not going to use the word woke, but they're waking up a little bit to the ideas that are really presented to them and that they didn't know was in front of them. That's a general good. But does it persuade a jury? I don't know. And I don't know. I'm going to tell you that that's even worse because it's the system itself. It's the way that the system is put together, where the defense itself only has to prove, because he's a cop specifically, he might have immunity in this some aspect, that he only has to prove that he didn't mean to kill this person, and that's going to be enough to be reasonable doubt. That's a little bit of it's just way too of an easy road, and we have to redefine our court system.
Isn't that manslaughter still anyway? He should still get a charge or something.
Yeah, but it's like second degree
and I'm saying that it's too easy
or something like that. I don't know if they charged Toledo's police officer that shot him yet. I know they charged Dante Wright.
No, they have not.
Dante Wright's police officer, she's got a second degree charge for her. And, and that's disturbing too, because she's supposed to be a training officer, and she made that mistake, that supposed mistake of grabbing her gun instead of her taser.
Well, you got some stuff you wanted to talk about.
I mean, we're ready for that. Yeah, I mean, it's a good time. And also, anybody who's with us today, please subscribe. Please follow us. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. We're on YouTube a lot. So let's just say that. It's Spotify and all over the place. So please subscribe, like, and comment on the bottom of the videos. So we're gonna get to one of the roughest stories for us. Let me just get this up. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna wait for that.
You
gotta fix the bottom.
The bottom.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not the right.
No, it's for Adam. Yeah. This one's for Dante.
Yeah. It's for we're supposed to do Adam's now.
No, we're doing Dante's.
No, Dante Wright.
This one's for Adam.
Why is it not switching on yours? That's not cool. Why is it not switching? All right, let's just do it this way.
Well, everybody gets to see live.
Live, right?
So I mean, but do you see what I'm talking about when it comes to the system of the court itself is the problem? Like we're not able to persuade enough of the quote unquote middle population, because that's the way that the jury system works, is that they literally kick off people that have any inclination towards the victim or towards the person who is being defended.
Is that correct? Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's good.
There you go. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, but it's just sad because some of the dumbest people get put on those juries. I'm just gonna put that out.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a part of the process, and I think that's what needs to be really redefined. Like we need to redefine the American ideal and like how we deal with systems that we have. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of countries don't deal with this issue. Like some of the UK does, but then they still have a parliamentary system and they still fight within that. So I think it's a global issue that we're gonna face soon. I think we're gonna hit a point too soon where we're gonna talk about that. Okay. So the Brooklyn Center shooting of Dante Wright. What does that mean for us now? Dante Wright, a 20-year-old black man, was shot and killed by police in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota on Sunday, April 11th. Protests immediately broke out in the suburb of Minneapolis above it, an area still affected by the current Derek Chauvin trial for the murder of George Floyd, which is also taking place currently. The area has been marred by police-involved deaths, and people are clearly affected by the concentration of excessive force. To the state the bare facts of the case or what's going on, police say that they pulled Wright over for a traffic violation and he was shot and killed by the officer. This is the young man right here. Killed by the officer Kim Porter, who I'll show a little bit later, at the traffic stop. The shooting happened at a town about 10 miles north of Minneapolis, which holds a large African American population. Katie Wright, a woman who identified herself as Dante's mother, said that she was on the phone with her son during the traffic stop. He told her that he was pulling over for an air freshener dangling from the rearview mirror, which is apparently illegal in Minnesota, which seems like the cheapest reason to stop somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But to
They
finish
couldn't
just the
say
information,
being brown while driving.
no, they can't. But on top of that, he was found to have an existing bench warrant for a 2019 gun charge, where he didn't necessarily receive the document of the time of the hearing, which shouldn't have mattered at all. And we're all just adding caveats to this. But when the police tried to arrest him, Wright went back into his vehicle, seeming to fear the cops, where the officer shot at the vehicle and Wright was struck and he crashed several blocks later. So police on Monday said the shooting appeared to be an accidental discharge, and the officer is intended to use a taser, but mistakenly drew a handgun. After firing, Potter said, "Shit, I just shot him," according to prosecutors, which I believe is what immediately got this into the realm of her being arrested immediately, because this is a clear case of at least manslaughter. The last week had been highlighted with protests across the area, including dozens detained over the days of anger and sadness over this death. Police said a group of about 100 to 200 gathered at Brooklyn Center Police headquarters. Police shot rubber bullets and tear gas into the crowd, of course, which they said threw rocks and other objects. The Associated Press and local media reported some stories in the area where stores were broken into, but they basically said the police declared the crowd was unlawful by 11:30 p.m., including all journalists. So we're just back to the area of like, this is clear, right? This is another Derek Chauvin level clarity of the incident, in my opinion. May have the same result where we only get the arrest in a trial. I mean, how do you feel about this other than sadness? I mean,
His girlfriend was with him, right?
An abrupt death.
His girlfriend, I think,
I did not see that. Yes, I believe that was true, but
it was somebody else with him in the car.
Could I say something about what you said earlier about the whole thing regarding hold on one second. The whole thing about like certain things not being too relevant, like like I agree with you 99%, but I think that 1% is like we have to see where all the failures led up to this point, and that's why I feel like stating like all the facts that are relevant, not necessarily relevant in the sense of like what could have, would have, should have happened, is like a big deal. I think it's good to acknowledge it so that they could come up with solutions so that it doesn't happen again. Like they shouldn't be chasing people down over petty warrants like that. They there's like a lot of things that because of what happened. Or even like with the thing with the guy's license plate situation, there should be a procedure that doesn't allow it to escalate that far. You know what I mean? Like, and everything to me, I think matters to an extent. I think you're right. Like, it's still fucked up, and it shouldn't have any like proceedings in regards to how the person who shot the person should be handled. Like I think they should still get the book thrown at them as much as possible. That's fair for the situation. But I think, I just really feel like people should always know everything that happens, because if people don't do that, then it seems like shady. You know what I mean? If you don't talk about both sides of the coin, then what ends up happening is well, a police officer was right. You have one side saying one thing, and then it becomes divisive, sort of like politics.
Yeah, but it's like saying like, okay, so everybody... All right, if you have a warrant right now for your arrest, expect to be shot by the police.
No, I don't justify that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you have to see the certain steps that we're taking up to that point that caused it. I'm not saying that it's justified at all, and I'm not saying that the police officer has the right to pull out their gun. Like the gun shouldn't have been drawn on him, because she had the gun out for like 30 seconds, right? It was like a good several seconds, before she actually fired. How did you not see the gun?
Okay. How did you not feel that it wasn't a taser?
That's much more. Okay, so we didn't even get to that section of it, but I was going to say she held the gun out long enough that she should have known that it was a gun.
Exactly.
Like, even if she picked up the wrong, it's very clear that it doesn't matter if you're having a bad day. It was her non-dominated side. It's all these things. Like, there's a lot of factors here where it's obvious
some people's
that
mental state, they don't realize things, though. You know what I mean? Like, I've done things and like without even thinking about it, and be like, oh shit, what did I do? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's what she did, and I'm not saying she's not guilty. She's definitely guilty. But what I'm saying is like, where are the lines? You know what I mean? Like, where are the lines? Everything's got to be expressed, and everybody's got to have a point, and people also got to sometimes understand accidents happen, and some people also have to understand that there's nothing that should hold this person from going to jail. This person needs to go to jail. You know what I mean?
But then that comes back to the whole case of like maybe police shouldn't be carrying guns.
Yep.
Maybe they just shouldn't be carrying guns.
There should be like, I think, a middle phase or something.
Something
where there's like somebody that approaches them, and then when they see that there's an escalation, then they go get the backup or whatever it is. They shouldn't approach them. They shouldn't have people just randomly going up to people with guns, because like that's just like if I was gonna go rob you with a gun, the first thing you think is I'm gonna hurt you with the gun, right? Like that's the same thing with the police. I see a guy holding his holster. Okay, dude, like what did I do? They're like, please don't shoot me. Like that. Like, I think the gun needs to be out the equation, and I think some people, because I've seen like all different extremes of people where they're like, some people actually have common sense. Some people don't have common sense. Some people do stupid things and don't think when they're doing it, and then they have to. It's like getting burnt in order for them to learn something. Like, oh, is this hot? Oh, and then they do something, and then oh shit, I can't do that again. They got to learn the hard way, right? People in the position of being a police officer don't have the what's not time, but they don't have that little leeway there. They can't afford those mistakes of I got to do a trial and error and learn from my mistakes, because that ends up becoming life or death for somebody else.
Then maybe we should talk about taking the guns away from cops and increasing gun control, so that way not everybody can be running around with a gun. Not everyone can have these private sales of guns. That's going to lead into a bigger conversation, which really needs to happen. And hopefully with this administration, Biden seems like he's actually going to talk about this and maybe actually be one of the first presidents to do something about gun control.
I don't think he's going to do that.
I hope, and especially with, I hope so, especially with the growing increase, and it's only going to be through public outcry, really, honestly, that anything is going to change. It's like, we've had how many shootings, how many people, the country's already just started to open back up, and we're already killing the shit out of each other.
Somebody said the other day, and I totally agree with it, technology has become more and more advanced, but people for like the last, I don't know how many years, like he said, like since the 70s, 60s, hasn't changed. Like mentally, people are still the same people, but now they just have new gadgets to play with. You know what I mean? They're still stupid. They're still impulsive. They still make the same kind of stupid mistakes. And now we get to videotape it. So now everybody's extra pissed because now everybody's fully aware of it. And I think that's what a lot of it is. I think all this has been happening for the longest. I think it might have been worse before a little bit because people were getting away with it because there weren't cameras, looking at them. But now some people are even more emboldened. It's just sick, man. I want to find a middle ground where there's police and people that can communicate to a point where we end up becoming a better society. But how do you do that, right? Like, the trust is lost already. I feel like the trust is totally lost.
Well, it feels like a lot of this is definitely based in racism, systemic racism. It all kind of comes from that.
Stereotypes, if not just racism, stereotypes. They say, oh, there's this person, he's got dreads, or he's got this, or he's got that. They look like gang members because they're wearing a lot of, like, just because you're wearing gold and Jordans and whatever else and you got some money doesn't mean you're a drug dealer, right? But that's the first opinion, the impression that somebody's going to see.
Well, that all still it stems back to systemic racism, and hopefully we're getting into a span of where we can actually address some of that. The House committee approves a bill to study slavery reparations for the first time, which I think is great. It's like the first time that they've actually talked about anything when it comes to reparations seriously and putting it to a vote. So this bill has passed. It's just a bill to study reparations, to see if this would be worth us doing, if it's going to actually lead somewhere to, maybe actually fixing and bridging this gap that we've created between white and black America. There was a study that says that shown that the net worth of typical white family is nearly 10 times greater than a black family, and black Americans also have less likely to own a home and other racial and ethnic groups. Black poverty rate is double the white rate. This is according to analysis by Mullen and Darity. Reparations could lead to the elimination of black-white wealth gap within 10 years. I mean, they're not just talking about, financially giving money. It's a bunch of stuff. They're talking about education, everything that they would be putting this into effect to try to really see if what steps we could take. Because America, they don't want to admit that this whole country is grown on the backs of slavery. It's disgusting. And this is it's been taken as this bill's kind of been passed down between different committee members to kind of try to see if they can get it going. And I hope that this is something that will get traction and it will pass to a vote. I mean, we do have opposition already with people saying, that they don't, why should white Americans who had nothing to do with slavery and didn't own slaves have to pay for African Americans for reparations? And I think it's ridiculous when you talk about that. It's ridiculous to say that, because you're directly affected. You're directly affected by it. You are experiencing being a white male in this country. You're experiencing privilege that's given to you, that's made you into a better position than a black American man. It's ridiculous. And for this to actually get to some place where they can vote on it, I think it's a big step. It's a huge step. It's a conversation that needs to be had, especially when it comes to the education that needs to be put out there. I mean, we need to stop glossing over the horrific history of America. I mean, even Germany, they take a better steps into making sure that they're aware of the atrocities that they committed when it came to World War II. It's a huge part of their education system. They have field trips to these areas where they go to concentration camps. It's mandatory. They want to make sure that this stuff never happens again within that country, and they're doing that through the education system. We are not doing that here. We have schools. There was a Maria Montessori Academy. In Utah, they allowed the schools to opt out of Black History Month activities where they were getting taught about the different things that happened in this country during Black History Month, which, of course, February is the shortest month. And they were allowing these students, their parents, to opt them out of it. Just because you want to ignore what happened doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And everyone should know about it. I mean, there's so many more stories, too, that are growing every day. There was footage of a Black high school student. He's a football player being made to sit in a locker filled with banana skins, and he was threatened by the other teammates with violence against him if he didn't do it, if he didn't pose for pictures for this. It showcases a moment. Black high school player in Illinois. He was threatened with physical abuse and goaded into sitting into this locker that they filled with banana skins. There was a student of color auction in slave trade group message by Texas high schoolers. They had it on their Snapchat. They were doing a fake auction on Snapchat for their black high school students that they were, their fellow students. I mean, this is a direct reflection that we need this education. We need something to happen that will help to really try to repair these race relationships that we're seeing, and that this ever growing, especially new generation of racism that's coming up in America. We need something. Something has to be done.
So I'm going to be. It's not a controversial thought, but it is a thought that has been going around. Is that this is almost even too small of a scope of talking about reparations, because I mean I hope that when they go into slavery reparations, that they go into the historical event of the whole transatlantic the passageway. So that means that it has to almost impact more than just African Americans who are born in the United States from a certain era. It has to influence basically a global thing. I think this has to be on a level of the UN, of talking about reparations from countries like England, from Spain, from Netherlands, that benefited directly from the slave trade, and that's one of the hardest things about these one-off bills. I know this is specifically to just do research, but I hope that in this research that they see that the impacts of reparations to the black and basically brown communities is going to bring up the income of everyone. Everyone will benefit from reparations in the end. What it will bring is both solace of some sort to people economically, and it will also bring them to a place where they have the recognition from the governments that this happened, and that it's not just happened, but it is also relevant to repair that past incidents. So it'll be relevant for the discourse of the future. And I think that is one of the more relevant points. I don't know, for instance, if, I will get reparations because, for instance, I'm a Jamaican descent immigrant. But it definitely, England deserves to send us some damn reparations checks. But it's not going to happen like that unless we start talking about it on a wider scale, even. And I think we need to start talking. Go ahead.
I think this is a great, at least, stepping stone for some kind of a conversation. I mean, it's only a bill to study what the effects of reparation would it make a difference, how much money we're looking at. I think they said somewhere around 7 trillion, maybe, as a starting point. But is it enough? Is it enough for the damage that has been done to black and brown people for so fucking long? For so long. Would it be enough? Would it be enough? Exactly how much would be enough? How much would be enough to, and I just think about, just from me thinking about the Black experience, there's just so much anger and justifiable anger. How can you quell that? How do you begin to quell that, And we have just denied and denied and denied, especially in this country. I mean, a lot of countries did it, yes. But it seems like when it comes to America, when it's something fucking horrible, we did it great. And we did it big. We did it long and hard, and we made sure it fucking lasted and you felt it forever. I can't go down to Georgia, to Savannah, Georgia, and not feel the sweat of the slaves that made that fucking place. You can taste it. You can taste it in every fucking house that you go into, in the division that's in everything. It's weird. I can't even begin to imagine the people that are going to have to be, if this does get past this study of this committee that's going to get put together for, if this study gets passed, who's going to be on it, and where do you begin?
One of the biggest problems is they exploited slaves years and years ago, right? Then they went into exploiting people from other countries, with capitalism, by going to other people and getting sweatshops and all that other stuff. Yeah, there needs to be a whole global reset, sort of like what you said. A lot of people deserve reparations. But it's that and a lot more, you know what I mean? In regards to making things normal. You can give people money, But then, of course, these crooks are still around, and I feel like they'll find a way around all that stuff to still benefit things and be able to screw people over and still keep the wealth gap a certain way. That's why they complain about it. Nobody, not nobody, but a lot of people with money, they don't want to be the ones funding the stuff that all these people have been cheating people and killing people over and enslaving people over the last, I don't know how many years, like hundreds of years, and that's what the problem is. Like they shot in the toilet to the point where the toilet's so clogged up that they want to flush it all down, but it's full. Not to be too graphic and nasty, to do it, you got to go in there and pull everything out and fix it. You know what I mean? And nobody wants to get their hands dirty. And I mean, I'm sure people of color want things to change, but a lot of other people are like, well, that's not my mess. Why do I have to clean it? It's that whole mentality, and a lot of Americans have it, where it's like, well, I didn't do that. Why should I fix that? Or why? It's like, it's crazy. And people could say that to other people and convince people in this country, even though deep down inside they might feel like, yeah, they deserve this. They're like, but you know what? Why should I do that? I mean, it's just that sick, I don't know, it's a sick mentality, man.
I mean, if anybody,
I hope we can get reparations going, but I think it's going to take a lot more than that for inequality as well. Like, it'll help a certain amount of people, and I think over time it'll be a beneficial thing, and I believe anybody with common sense knows that. But there's a lot of people that are selfish, and they don't want to, and it scares me. It makes me think that it's like we're beating a dead horse. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard. I think a lot of people need to start doing community. This is what I feel personally. We should do a lot more community-driven stuff and count on ourselves and provide for our own communities instead of waiting for government to try to find a solution, because at this point they've proven that they're bought, and they don't care about lives. I think money is money over lives for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the problem is that the government runs a lot of this stuff. Like, especially, I think schooling is 100% where they should really try to start the most. I mean, these kids, the way they're going after each other is ridiculous.
Are they moral? I don't think they're moral as much as we are. I think that people struggling
but that's
the need for it.
But you're talking about community-driven. There should be community-driven committees to make sure that there's someone holding those people accountable, making sure. I mean, I remember being in 5th grade, and finally hearing about Buffalo Soldiers and all this other stuff and things I had never heard about, the things that were not in the history book that we were being taught out of, but out of a teacher who was more concerned on knowing what really happened in history and not what the abridged version of the rainbow colored one that they give you in the history books, where it doesn't talk about the horrific shit that they've done.
That's the diversity in this country. That's how do you combat that? When you go to different states and you get different type of teaching, you get different type of people. You get people that
you don't have to go to different states. You can go to just different communities.
That's what I mean. Like like different areas. Like, you'll see that if you go to certain areas, they don't look at it the same way you do. And then how do you combat that? It's so much of a mess. There needs to be some sort of standardization where everything is addressed.
But standardization leads to monolithic culture.
No, I mean standardization, and I don't mean it in a sense of like standardize, like, okay, we all believe this. No, I mean standardization in regards to how to approach it, meaning, like, if they're not teaching about black culture, slavery, this, that, whatever, that they need to make certain things standard and a way of keeping it that way. Not something where these other schools and whatever else can only white supremacy or black supremacy or Spanish supremacy, or because at the end of that's obviously there should be places where you can go for that if you want to learn more about your culture. But when it comes to like government stuff and state stuff, run stuff, there needs to be some sort of like standard that they all that they go based on. I don't want it to all be just Christian religion or whatever it is being taught. It should be all religions. That's the type of standard I want to see, that all religions can be taught. I'm not talking about like a standard in which certain things are excluded. You know what I mean?
It's something more inclusive.
Yeah, more inclusive standard. You know what I mean? And you know, it just,
But
that's not realistic because people are going to be assholes no
well,
matter where
for
you
the
go.
first
That's
part
the
of it,
sad
it
thing
shouldn't
about
be.
it.
People should be able to allow their children to be opted out of what has happened in history just because they don't like how horrific it was, or if they don't like the truth being told to
what
their
if they don't
children.
believe it
They've even
though?
had it so that they're trying to get kids to that they don't have to hear about the Holocaust. I mean, there's already children out there that think that never happened.
Yeah.
Is that what we're trying to do the same thing when it comes to slavery? You can sugarcoat it all you want. It happened. It happened. It's the same thing with indigenous people. We killed them, we robbed their land, and we gave them a fucking casino to stay on. Here you go. Keep this. This is fine. Until we
I
need
mean,
it for some
even to
imminent
be
domain shit that we try to pull on them all the time. Or we've got to put a pipeline through the middle of your land that we gave you, but it's not really yours. It's kind of ours, so it's fine.
Do you want to talk about the cop? I see you have the thing up on the photo up. Did you want to speak to Anthony?
Oh no. Sorry, I just
So are we done?
tabs.
We're done. Are we? No, all right. No, I just see you switching. So I want to make sure everybody talks about the topics because I know we're getting close to 9 o'clock.
No, I think we covered everything. I mean,
so that's cool, man. I want the best for everything, guys. Like I believe that human beings can do it. It's just that the ratios of assholes to not assholes, I know I've been saying that a lot today, are, that's what makes it different. Like, in order, for us to change it, we got to get these assholes out the equation. You know what I mean? And that's going to be super hard because there's been hundreds of years of people just like gradually putting themselves and positioning themselves in government and wherever else. And we're sitting here like, we can't do anything. We can only vote them in and out. And then you also got to deal with the lobbyists and all these other people. They use the media to persuade people to vote for these people to bring them back into office. There's got to be some, I think the key thing is definitely education. Education and people learning about like what's going on in their environment so that they can actually make some educated changes.
But also not getting complacent with what's happening, making sure you're still protesting, making sure you're still letting people know hear that public outcry, so that officials are being pressured to make sure that there are some changes that are getting made, that there are some things that need to be changed, that they can't be allowed to just keep letting it happen. We can't keep letting it happen. We need to protest. We need to go to the streets. We need to do all that stuff. The public outcry it can't lighten no matter how many. And it's sad because it seems like every day is another body on that list.
I got one quick question for
I just want to say,
okay,
before you go, I just want to say that education.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just want to say that education has got to be multifaceted and multicultural. I think that is one of the aspects that you're talking about with standardization. You're actually talking about books from Kansas and Texas that rule the marketplace. We need to start talking about how to diversify the books that come into the different chapters and different areas in a way so that they can actually provide real education for the young people. And people who are in college, for instance, because a lot of this education comes to them at this point where they're outside of their own safety zones. So that's all I just wanted to add in.
Do you think with cameras and everything else and the fact that the internet and everything else is around, do you think eventually people will learn? Like, because I feel like, with cameras, we see things more. With the internet, we hear things more. But it also kind of corrupts people because of the fact that there's so much noise and other stuff that shouldn't be exposed there, like liars and manipulators also putting things out there. Do you think that somehow or other that balance can sway towards our benefit? Do you think? Like, do you think that do you understand what I'm asking?
I think that it exhausts. I think it exhausts people. I think you get to a purse where it's ebb and flow, and we haven't gotten to a flow where we really have learned from our mistakes and have gotten there. I think we're at a very rough kind of ebb where we're kind of like, okay, well, we're having an intense moment with the George Floyd movement and the Black Lives Matter movement, but then it kind of ebbs away because you know what, people are tired of it. People get really exhausted by seeing the death and dismemberment of black and brown bodies, and even topics that we're talking about. Like, people get exhausted by even, you know, they're doing their own research about these type of things. They kind of want to be entertained. Most people don't want to fundamentally feel this kind of negative feeling for this long. So I think it's possible to learn from these times, and that it will slowly change people. But I don't think it'll also reinforce people's beliefs, and good beliefs, like strong beliefs about, you know, how to treat other people, etc. I think that is totally a possibility. I also think that it's possible that it reinforces the people who are very negatively against, like, I have to say it, a lot of very hard right-wing Republicans and conservatives hate left people, the people from the left. I do not see the same kind of, I see in very leftist people, I see that kind of animosity towards the right, but it's not quite the same.
It's not like I'm gonna grab my gun and shoot this person. It's not like the sick aggressive stuff you hear, like a lot of right. Oh, we need to kill these people, lynch them, and blah, blah. We don't hear that. We hear people like left, you know, talking about, I can't stand him, man. This guy's obnoxious. He's an asshole. Like they're nasty to right wingers, but they don't. I don't think I've ever heard a left winger like threaten people's lives and so on and so forth like that. Except for like, oh, this person should be locked up because they did something crazy. Like if there was a right wing incident where they beat somebody up, yeah, they might say something, but it's never to the same extent. You're definitely right about that.
Hopefully we can come to some kind of a conversation at least, and start somewhere with this, because things have to change. I'm just worried about the boiling point, and I wonder, what's it going to take? Who's it going to take? Who's it going to take next? And, you know, I don't want to see any more people have to die to have a change come. And that's really what it should be at the core of it. We shouldn't want to see each other being killed. We shouldn't want that to be anywhere near a reason why we have to find an answer. It shouldn't be because of the blood of people. It is sad and it's overwhelming, and I can see why people get exhausted with it, because it is exhausting. It's taxing, you know, and it makes you afraid, and it makes you feel helpless. And hopefully we can get to a place where we don't feel helpless, but we can't stop being outraged. We can't stop talking about it just because we are exhausted, because there will be no change, and it'll just get worse.
So is that a wrap, guys?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to the show.
Yes, thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know, please
please subscribe.
Yeah, please, definitely. And if there's anything that you would like us to see, by all means, contact us at our social medias. It's aired throughout the video or whatever. And
it should be below. It should always check below. There's links below.
Definitely. So God bless everybody. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Right, guys? We'll definitely see them soon. Love you guys. Take care.